Guys, you join with Watch YouTube channel. Today we're going to discuss about cephalopods, crustaceans and other shellfish. Cephalopods, crustaceans and other shellfish play important role in maintaining healthy ocean system. Cephalopods, like the southern blue-ringed octopus and the vampire squid, look otherworldly, while Atlantic blue crab and American lobsters are the focus of major fishing industries. You can get a brief idea about octopus, crabs, and so many interesting species. Acorn barnacle. They are distributed in cold temperature to subpolar latitudes of the northern hemisphere. Their habitat is rocky shores. Their feeding habit is filter feeding. They belong to Subphylum Crustacea. Crabs, shrimps also belongs to Subphylum Crustacea. Adult barnacles are sessile. They can't move. After a short phase spent as planktonic larvae, barnacles settle attached to a hard substrate and never move again. The acorn barnacle is one species in a large group of species with the same common name that do not have stalk and instead attach their shells directly to the substrate. American horseshoe crab. The ecosystem habitat is beaches and other soft bottom habitats. Their feeding habit is foraging omnivore. This crab is more interesting, guys. That is because the American horseshoe crab is not a true crab and is not even a crustacean at all. In fact, this species is more closely related to spiders and scorpions than to crabs, shrimps and lobsters. As a broader group, horseshoe crab have been around for at least 450 million years, making them one of the oldest lineages of animals alive today. Horseshoe crab were roaming the seafloor more than 200 million years before dinosaurs existed. American lobster. Their distribution restricted to temperate latitudes of the northwest Atlantic Ocean from North Carolina to Labrador. Ecosystem habitat is rocky reefs. Feeding habits is foraging predator. They belong to Subphylum Crustacea and Family Nautilidae. The American lobster, also known as Maine lobster, is a large-bodied cloud lobster that supports a large lucrative fishery throughout its range. Antarctic krill. It's distributed circumpolar in the southern hemisphere. Ecosystem habitat is open ocean. Feeding habit is filter feeder. They belong Subphylum Crustacea. The Antarctic krill is an extremely common pelagic crustacean native to the waters surrounding Antarctica and is one of the most important prey species near the bottom of southern ocean food webs. It can form dense aggregations and scientists believe the total combined biomass of this species to be as much as several hundred million metric tons, more than that all of humans. Several species of southern ocean foragers and predators specialize on Antarctic krill as one of their primary food sources. Argentine short-fin squid distribution subtropical to subpolar latitudes of Brazil and Argentina. Ecosystem habitat is open ocean. Feeding habits, active predators. The Argentine short-fin squid is a common species of the coasts of Brazil and Argentina and is the target of one of the largest fisheries in the world. The species is relatively small with a mantle length of only about 1 foot, nearly 30 centimeters or less, and tentacles length of another 9 inches, 22 centimeters. It forms extremely dense aggregations, however, and is captured in fisheries by the ton. Atlantic blue crab. They distributed in tropical to temperate latitudes of the western Atlantic Ocean. Ecosystem habitat, soft bottoms. Feeding habits, foraging omnivores. Belongs Subphylum Crustacea and Family Palinuridae. The Atlantic blue crab is a common species along the east coast of the United States and in the Gulf of Mexico. This species one of the largest US crab fisheries outside of Alaska. Cooked Atlantic blue crab are bright red. Blue king crab distribution. Cold, temperate and subpolar latitudes of the northern Pacific Ocean. Ecosystem habitat, soft bottoms. Feeding habits, foraging omnivores. Subphylum Crustacea. The blue king crab is the largest king crab species and one of the largest crustaceans. In the past, this species supported a large fishery worth millions of dollars, but numbers have been reduced to the point that commercial fisheries no longer targeted the blue king crab directly. It lives on soft-bottom habitats throughout the Bering Sea and adjacent water. Along with true crabs, prawns and lobsters, the king crab are decapods. They have 10 legs. Broadclub cuttlefish distribution tropical to temperate latitudes in the Indian and West Pacific Oceans. Ecosystem habitat coral reefs. Feeding habit is active predator. They belongs to class cephalopods. The broadclub cuttlefish is a predatory cephalopod that lives and hunt on coral reefs in the Indo-Pacific Oceans. This species is the second largest cuttlefish, reaching weight of at least 22 pounds 10 kilograms. Cuttlefish are masters of camouflage, can change both their colors and texture of their skin to match their surrounding. The broad club cuttlefish gets its common name from the wide pads on the end of its feeding tentacles that it uses to capture prey. Caribbean Reef Octopus. Their distribution Caribbean Sea and adjacent water. Ecosystem habitat is coral reefs, feeding foraging predator. They belongs to class Cephalopoda. The Caribbean Reef Octopus is an absolute master of disguise and one of the most intelligent non-invertebrates. Individuals of this species can completely change their color from one moment to the next using specialized color cells called chromatophores. Doing so, they often perfectly blend with their surrounding, even when settle on the surface with multiple colors. They also have such amazing control of their skin and muscles that they can match the texture of their surrounding as well. Camouflaged Caribbean reef octopus can be nearly impossible to see. Caribbean spiny lobster ecosystem habitat is coral reefs and associated seagrass beds and sand flats. Feeding habit is foraging omnivores. They belong to subphylum Crustacea. Caribbean spiny lobster is one of the largest crustacean on coral reefs and seagrass beds. in the Caribbean Sea and adjacent water, and is one of the most valuable fishery resources from every country throughout its range. Along with true crabs, prawns, and other lobsters, the Caribbean spiny lobster is a decapod. It has 10 legs. It is covered with spiny exoskeleton that provides protection from potential predators, but it remains the favorite prey of many species, including nurse sharks, chambered nautilus. Distribution tropical to warm temperate latitudes of the East Indian and West Pacific Ocean. Ecosystem habitat is open ocean near the seafloor. Feeding habit is active predator. It belongs to class Cephalopoda. The chambered nautilus is one of 6 species of nautilus. Only cephalopods that have external shells. Like in most shell animals, this species can retract completely into its shell when threatened. Coconut octopus distribute in the western Pacific Ocean. Ecosystem habitat shallow, subtidal and coastal muddy waters. Eating habit foraging and ambush predator, primarily crabs. They belongs to class Cephalopoda. The coconut octopus gets its unique name from the way its make comes out of discarded and hollowed out coconut shells found in muddy waters along the coastal seafloor. Colorful hermit crab distributed temperate latitudes of South America. Ecosystem habitat is soft sediments. Feeding habit is foraging omnivores. They belongs to Subphylum Crustacea. The colorful hermit crab is a large hermit crab that lives along both coasts of South America. Like all hermit crabs, an individual of this species carries around a heavy shell that it uses for protection. It does not build this shell, however, instead it scavenges an empty snail shell from a variety of species and carries the shell with its tail and abdomen. The colorful hermit crab's ages, it must find new, larger shells that can accommodate its growing body. Colossal squid distributed circumpolar around Antarctic and in the Southern Ocean. Ecosystem habitat is open ocean. Belongs to class Cephalopoda. Colossal squid is a massive squid that lives in the deep sea surrounding Antarctica, and it is the holder of multiple records. Not only is it the largest invertebrate on Earth, it also has the largest eye of any animal, larger even than those of the great whales. Decorator crab distribution worldwide. Ecosystem habitat is varied. Feeding habit is foraging omnivores. They belongs to superfamily Majoidea. The term decorator crab describe many different crabs found worldwide, including several different species of spider crabs, moss crabs, little seaweed crab, and toothed crabs. Flamingo tongue distribution tropical to warm temperate latitudes of the western Atlantic Ocean. The ecosystem habitat is coral reefs. Feeding habit foraging predator. They belongs to class Gastropoda. The flamingo tongue is a small marine snail that lives on coral reefs in the western Atlantic Ocean. This species is very colorful with bright pink or orange coloration and black spots. Interestingly, these colors are not associated with the shell, which is somewhat drab. Instead, the color comes from the marine snail's soft tissue, which is almost always wrapped around the entire outside of the shell. Geoduck distribution called temperate latitudes in the northeast Pacific Ocean. Ecosystem habitat is soft bottoms. Feeding habits filter feeding. They belong to class Bivalvia. The geoduck is a large clam native to the west coast of North America. Unlike the giant clam, which is almost all shell, the geoduck has a small shell compared to the soft part of its body, which it cannot retract into the shell. The shell rarely grows larger than about 8 inches 20 centimeters, but the soft body can be over 3.3 feet, nearly 1 meter long. Geoducks burrow deep into soft, muddy, or sandy sediments, and this long neck is actually the siphon that the clam uses to bring clean seawater down to the deeply buried shell. They are the largest of all burrowing clams. Giant Triton distribution. Tropical latitudes of the Indo-Pacific Ocean from East Africa to Hawaii. Their ecosystem habitat is coral reefs and associated sand flats. Feeding habit is active predator. They belong to class Gastropoda. The giant triton is a very large marine snail that can reach size of 1.5 feet long. This species is also known as Triton's trumpet, named for the sun Triton of the Greek god of the sea, Poseidon, and the fact that the shell can be used to make trumpet-like sound. Spanish dancer, distributed tropical western Pacific and Indian Ocean. Ecosystem habitat is coral and rocky reefs. Feeding habit is foraging predator. They belong to class Gastropoda, reaching size of at least 16 inches, nearly 40 centimeters. The Spanish dancer is the largest nudibranch and one of the largest sea slugs on the planet. Like most nudibranchs, the Spanish dancer is brightly colored and does not blend in well with its surrounding. This bright coloration, similar to that of the poison dart frog and many other species, severe as a warning to potential predators that the Spanish dancer does not taste good and may even make a predator sick. White shrimp distribution: the Gulf of Mexico and the western Atlantic Ocean from Mexico to New York. Their ecosystem habitat is soft bottoms. Feeding habit foraging omnivore. They belong to Subphylum Crustacea. White shrimps are short-lived prawns with range that includes the Gulf of Mexico and the eastern coast of the United States from Florida to New York. This species is the largest prawn in its range, reaching length of nearly 8 inches 20 centimeters and is one of the more highly sought seafood species wherever it lives.